So this video is going to show you how to read and write files to your computer's hard drive in Greenfoot. So what I have is two buttons on the screen, pretty basic. I have one button that's called Read In, and I have one button that's called Write Out. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to run this and show you how it works. If I click the Read In button, that's what I get. I get a whole bunch of names: John, Jackson, T, Sam, bunch of people. Okay, and I hit OK, hit it again. Great. And now I'm going to hit the red button, and I'm going to type I'll type it in big letters so it shows up. We'll type Victor. Okay. Name added, and then hit the red or the blue, and you can see Victor's now there. Hit it again, still there. So what's happening is we are clicking this button, and it's giving us a whole bunch of names. We're clicking this button, it seems to be adding that name to the list. So how does this work? Well, let's take a look. So here is the read in code. And what it says is essentially if someone clicks on the button, we are going to try to do everything from here to here. If something goes wrong, this is the code we're going to run. This is called a try-catch statement. And basically, whenever you're doing file input and output in Greenfoot, or in Java, I should say, it forces you to use a try-catch. And all it is error checking. It just means file input output is kind of risky. A lot of things can go wrong. What if you type the file name wrong? What if the file is not available to be read from? What if you think the file is in a certain location, like it's on your desktop, and then someone moves it? So there's lots of problems that can arise. And so Java makes you put a try, and then it wraps everything in here, and a catch. And this means if something goes wrong, we're going to print out information so that people can figure out what goes wrong. And that's it. Okay, so don't let the try-catch really fool you. The main code that we're going to look at is in here. So what this says is we are going to create what they call a buffered reader that is going to access information in this file. Now this is not a variable that's in RAM. This is an actual file on your computer. So if I click on my Finder here is my file.io project, my Greenfoot file.io project. And you'll notice here there's a names.txt file. If I double click on it, you can see that there are names here. Okay? And what I'm doing is I'm saying I want to get access to everything in names. And then I have some code which makes names as a string, and it says names is going to be blank to start, and then it's going to read from the file. So BR is kind of like, it's like a cursor. Okay, so I'm going to, just for a little visual, I'm going to open this up. And what happens is when BR, which is our buffered reader, it basically opens up this file for us, and it sits right here where it's flashing right now. It says, I'm ready. And then when we call br.readline, it's going to read the first line, which is John, and store it in a string variable called curline for current line. And as long as current line still holds information, as long as it's not null, then what we're going to do is we're going to take curline and we're going to add it to the string called names. So we're going to keep growing this string. So names is nothing, but after it runs this line, now names is John. And then it reads the next line from the file. The next line is Jackson. And so is Jackson not nothing? Yeah, Jackson that's something. And so now it adds Jackson to the names string. And then it reads the next line, which is T. And is T not null? Yeah, T is something. So we're still reading information. So it keeps going, going, going. And eventually it's going to get down here. And you'll notice there's a small error. I didn't add a new line, but it's going to read this last line of code. It's going to read Aiden Victor. And once it reads that, it's going to read it. It's going to put it into the names thing. And then it tries to read the next line. But because we're at the very end of the file, there's nothing to read. And so now it's going to read nothing, which is null. So now curline is null, which means it's going to break out of the loop because this is now that curlyline is null, it won't keep going in the loop, and it closes the file so that nobody, so that other people can now access that file if they wanted to. So open the file, read information from the file, close the file. And then this line here, what it does is it brings up a little pop-up window that just shows us the value of names. We call that a J option pane. And it shows us a message with some dialogue in it. That's what all these words mean. Okay? And that's it. That's what the reader does. So if I click that blue again, there we go. If I click that blue again, so in a split second, it's going to open up that file, read all the information, close the file, and put it up on the screen for us. Fantastic. Now, write out, it's similar, but it's actually shorter. It's another try catch. Okay, so same idea with the try catch. And here, it pops up a thing for us that gets input from the user. It says first name. And so then I type in the name. And then it's going to open up a writer. And the difference here is that a file writer, a buffered writer, is something that can actually put information into a text file and not just read information from a text file. So this is going to open up the names.txt file. This comma.true here, what this means is we want to add information to this file. If we were to take this out, what would happen is it would totally overwrite the file names.txt and all that information will be destroyed. By putting that comma true, that means we want to add more information to the end of the file and not completely obliterate what's already in the file. So then it already got the information from me when I typed it up here. Now it puts it into the file by using the write method. So it writes to the file the name that I typed in. And this is supposed to be a new line character, so this will add it to the next line. And then it closes the file and then tells the user, hey, name added. So it just makes a pop-up screen come up. So if I run this again and I hit the write out method here, so there's the pop-up that says first name. I type Mike, hit OK, and in a split second, again, just that quickly, it's going to open up the file and add Mike to the file. And if you don't believe me, we can click the read in. You should see Mike. There we go, Mike's at the end. So it's not super complicated. There's not a whole lot of code, but this is the code that reads from an existing file. Note that the file has to exist first. And this is the code that will write to a file. And if you have this, it will add on to the end of a file instead of just overwrite the contents of a file. But to run this code, the file doesn't have to already exist. It will make a new one if it doesn't already exist. Whereas with this one, you can't read a book if I don't give one to you. So you have to have the book to read, right? So the file has to exist in order to read from it. Whereas I can write onto a blank piece of paper, no problem. Okay? The other thing to note is that there's a library that has to be imported up here. So this is the input-output library of Java, and you have to import that just like this. This means import all of the input-output libraries. And then to get those things popping up on the screen, you also need these two inputs, which imports an option pane and an internal frame. And these are responsible for having those pop-ups appear in Greenfoot. So make sure that you include those in your code. Okay? So I hope that that shows you a little bit about how to read and write information when you're using Greenfoot.